What's good, my people? Welcome into Green Dot Daily. I'm your host, Sean Little. Brendan Glasheen is still catching the Rays. You can catch us here Monday through Friday in the afternoon. You know where to find us. If you're watching us already, you know you can get us in the Action Network app, the award-winning Action Network app, the Action Network YouTube page. We have a big show here coming up. KD is back tonight. Matt Moore is joining us to break down some NBA later. But, of course, Green Dot Daily is done by BetMGM. Use the bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $1,000 first bet insurance. Terms and conditions apply. As I mentioned, KD's back tonight. He'll be suiting up in a Phoenix Suns uniform. Matt Moore will be stopping by to talk about that. But it's March. We got to talk about all things college hoops today on Green Dot Daily. We got a bunch. All the experts are stopping by to drop some props, picks. Nick Giffen's giving out his props. Evan Abrams is breaking down all things college basketball. A lot of interesting trends going on there. But joining me right now to kick it all off, he has a couple picks for us, Jim Root. Jim, what's going on?
Oh, not too much. Excited to see KD back in uniform, but you're right. I'm a college hoops guy. I'm focused on March. We finally made it to the best month of the year. Let's get into that.
Of course. It is March 1st to be exact. This is what every college basketball fan is waiting for. We're finally here. Kick us off. I know you got a couple of looks for us.
Yeah, we'll start in the Big 12 here. Wednesday night. Usually they're playing on Big Monday, but we got a big one tonight down in the Lone Star State. I'm taking TCU -2.5 hosting Texas. I just still think this TCU team is undervalued in the market with Mike Miles back in the lineup. They're about 12 points better per 100 possessions per Hoop Explorer when he plays, and I like them at home here. Texas, not a good road squad this year. 3-6 against the spread on the road. These two already played in Austin. TCU controlled most of the game, up by 10 for most of it. Ended up gagging it away late. Texas did win by 4. TCU covered that game. I think they're going to be confident in a revenge spot here. I like TCU laying the 2.5 tonight.
How much onus do you put in revenge spots in college basketball typically?
I typically care about it if it's an equal setting, like the teams are roughly equal. You know, if a team that was a 10-point dog lost the first game, I'm not really worried about it if they're coming back in a similar spread situation. But if it is something where I think and in this situation, I think the better coach and Jamie Dixon is going to make some adjustments, I like that incentive from an angle of the team that lost the first matchup.
All right, what are you looking at for pick number 2?
Number 2 is South Florida -14, and I got to be honest, this is way more about Tulsa than it is about South Florida. Tulsa has been horrific this year, 4-22 against the spread. That's right, against the spread, 4-22. That's how bad they've been, and it's only getting worse. Last 10 games, they're 1-8-1 against the number, not covering by an average of 9.7 points per game. They've been getting crushed. 2 weeks ago, they lost to this South Florida team by 26 in Tulsa. And now you take me over to Tampa for the season finale. I feel like Tulsa is probably not going to be in this game, not going to be hyped for it. Maybe they reset a little bit for the conference tournament, but for the regular season finale and a long travel down to Tampa area, I don't like that. I will lay the points with the Bulls.
Yeah, it seems like what type of motivation does Tulsa have in a spot like this? The 14 number, a number like -14 seems big until the game starts. You're like, yeah, they're going to cover this number easy. Let's see what South Florida can get done. All right, everybody has a Cinderella pick. We'll get into a couple more picks. At least, even for me, an NBA guy is going to give up a Cinderella pick for the NCAA tournament. But, Jim, you have a look. If this team really pushes it and goes the distance, they're 500-1 to win the title. Who are you looking at to make a Cinderella run this year in the tournament?
Yeah, I won't advocate for that going all the way, but I think in terms of a team that could shock people and make the second weekend get to the Sweet 16, I really like Drake out of Missouri Valley. And to be honest, I like whoever wins the Missouri Valley, especially if it's one of the top 3 between Drake, Bradley, and Southern Illinois. All 3 of those teams have a top 60 defense per KenPom. And I think if you can play up that physicality angle in the postseason as the games grind down into more of a half-court setting, then that's really a big troublemaker for the opposition. Drake, though, I like especially because they've got a star scorer, Tucker DeVries, son of the coach, big-time wing, can light it up. And they've got a super experienced point guard in Roman Penn, who's now in his 5th season. Really, really high assist rate, can help set guys up. The Drake as a team is 27th in Division I experience. So you add that to a strong defense, a really good coach in Darian DeVries. I think Drake is going to be a headache for whoever faces them in the tournament if they're able to get out of the MVC Arch Madness event.
Jim Root, always a pleasure to talk college ball with you, my man. Thanks for coming by.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Let's enjoy March.
A hefty Tuesday slate in college basketball. Nick Giffen out of the NASCAR garage. He's here to talk college hoops. He's got some props for us. Nick, what's going on, buddy?
Not much, man. You're right. Out of the NASCAR garage. And one of my favorite times of year, it's usually March, right?
March 1, Nick. We're here.
Oh, yeah.
We're ready to roll. Talk me through some props for the slate.
Yeah, like you said, very big slate. So when I was going through props last night, it was really interesting. I found out I was in line with the market quite a bit, which is a good thing because it means you have a good projection model. But it was very hard to pick some props. But I did find a couple. My first one, we're going to go to that in-state rivalry, Auburn at Alabama. And I'm going to go with Janai Broome over 8.5 rebounds. You can get that at plus 105. The thing that's really nice here for Auburn is this is a tempo up game for them because they are facing Alabama, who's second in the nation in pace of play. And Alabama themselves, while they're obviously one of the best teams in the nation, they're just kind of a middling team in terms of defensive rebounds. So what that does is the fact they don't get a ton of defensive rebounds and they don't force a ton of turnovers, that's going to equate to more offensive rebounds for opportunities for Auburn, because if they're not forcing turnovers, then Auburn's going to get more shots. And then if they're not rebounding those missed Auburn shots, Auburn will be getting some of their offensive boards. And Broome is a monster on the offensive rebound. And so I think this benefits him quite a bit. So he has not cleared this 8.5 number in each of the last three, which is, I think, maybe a little bit why the market is down on him. But prior to that, he cleared 8.5 in the previous 5 games, including a game against Alabama where he had 9 with 3 boards on the offensive end. So, he definitely made his mark on the offensive end against Alabama in the first meeting. So I'm actually projecting him just under 9.5 rebounds, like 9.4 rebounds with a 59.5% chance of going over. So the fact that, we're getting plus money and I have him favored to go over, I think it's a really good bet.
Yeah, it's all about buy low, sell high. I like the spot. All right, talk to me about your second pick.
Yeah, second pick, we're going to go to Kansas State versus Oklahoma, and I'm going to take Keontae Johnson over 16.5 points. You can get that at minus 130. The thing that's really interesting here is Keontae Johnson makes most of his points, 58.7% of his points he scores from 2-point field goals. And Oklahoma allows the 15th most percentage of points from 2-pointers. So it's a perfect matchup there where Oklahoma allows the 2 ball to be scored. Keontae Johnson scores most of his points from 2. When you consider, like I said, 58.7% of his points are from 2, the average in the league is around, in the NCAA is around 51%. So definitely at a high rate. And then you're facing Oklahoma, who I said, again, is one of the highest teams in terms of allowing points by way of the 2-pointer. And then the next most points by way of which Keontae Johnson scores is 20.2% from the free throw line relative to about an 18% national average. And again, Oklahoma's above average in free throw points allowed. So Oklahoma really good at preventing the 3-ball, but that's not Keontae Johnson's strength here. So this matchup plays perfectly to Keontae Johnson's strengths. And then, I'm using, I think, what would be a conservative minutes projection based off of his last 5 games. And I still get this 17.5 point projection. So I'm being as conservative as possible as I can be with this projection. I'm still getting them over by a full point. So it's likely that this is more like a floor projection for him than a median projection, but I was definitely trying to be conservative here on the minutes. So I think matchup is perfect for Keontae Johnson here. So let's take over 16.5 points.
Oklahoma, go ahead, run them off the 3-point line. Let Johnson get in the paint, go to work, get buckets, go to the free throw line, do what he does best. All right. I'm asking everybody for a Cinderella pick. Nick, what is yours? It's March. What are you looking at?
Yeah, I guess this one's kind of a Cinderella pick because they're not really a Cinderella pick by the computer metrics, but they are coming in around an 8 seed, a 7 to a 9 seed in bracketology. So that would classify as a Cinderella pick for me, and that's Arkansas. I have them 15th in my power ratings, yet they are at 40-1 odds to win it all. They have teams are tied or ahead of them like Indiana, UVA, my UVA Cavaliers. Kentucky, Miami, Marquette, and TCU. All of them have, like I said, equal or shorter odds, but they're all worse than Arkansas in my power rankings. Arkansas, the other thing I like about them is they're a very good defensive team, and I look for good defensive teams when I'm looking at March Madness, because while your shooting may be off, if you're solid defensively, that will always keep you in games, and they are 11th in defensive efficiency per KenPom. The other thing that I think is really good about Arkansas, which, again, I'm a UVA Cavaliers fan. We know they just grind out these slow games. That's not good when you're a favorite because it's fewer possessions. It keeps things closer. Well, Arkansas does push the tempo a little bit, which is what I'd like to see from a top, quarter team here in, a top 16 team in my metric, in my power ratings. So when they're favored, they're pushing the tempo. That creates more overall possessions, more opportunities for that efficiency to set in. And then meanwhile, of the teams that are ahead of them in my power ratings, there's only 4 of them that actually play at a slower tempo. So that, really helps, or there are only 4 that play a faster pace. Most of them play at a slower tempo. So that actually helps them because all those teams that are better than them are more grinded out style, so to speak, which should help Arkansas keep the game a little bit closer as well. So I actually think from a defensive standpoint, from a tempo standpoint, this is a great spot for them because they push when they're compared to most teams when they are favored, and when they should be trailing, most of the teams ahead of them don't push. So I think this is really good in that regard. Also, there's only 5 teams ahead of them that have a better non-conference strength of schedule, and only 5 teams have an overall better strength of schedule. So while Arkansas is only 19-10, they have had an absolutely brutal schedule. And that 19-10 record has been actually pretty unlucky. Ken Pomeroy's luck metric, which I do the luck rankings for NFL at Action Network. So Ken Pomeroy's luck rankings has Arkansas at 322nd out of 363 teams in luck. So that tends to balance out over the course of the year. Unlucky teams don't just tend to stay unlucky. So hopefully they go on a nice winning streak here and are kind of a Cinderella team in that about number 8 seed.
If you can shoot free throws, play defense, and get a little luck on your side, you can run deep in the NCAA tournament. Nick Giffen showing SEC a lot of love. I know they'll appreciate that. We'll see you next time, big man.
Absolutely. Take care.
Let's continue to talk college hoops from props to let's look at some trends with my guy, Evan Abrams. You always want to back successful coaches against the spread. We're going to the tournament. We are talking about teenagers here. Evan, take us through some of the results you've been seeing from some of these guys.
All right, so you're looking at Bet Labs right now. That's our proprietary, betting systems, shows all types of different stuff. These are the best coaches in the month of March against the spread. Dana Altman's at the top. John Beeline's number 2. I think what's actually interesting is some of the guys who aren't so good, which, might be a good way to look this time of year, fading. Rick Barnes, we talk about it all the time. He is the absolute worst of every coach in our database dating back to 2005. Second's actually Coach K, which is kind of funny. He's now gone, so no way to profit there. But let's actually look last 5 years, Sean, right? Because that's kind of the most interesting. It's the closest, it's the nearest, it's the most recent data. So the good coaches in March, Penny Hardaway, 18-6 against the spread. Jim Boeheim, 19-7 against the spread. And let's just look at 2 bad ones who you can maybe profit off of. Todd Kowalczyk, who's at Toledo right now, 6-16 against the spread. And Nico Medved, Colorado State, 5-15-1 against the spread in March. So there's a fade for you, Sean.
Boeheim needs to get on the PR run and start putting that number out there so he can get some love out here with the people, because it hasn't been a lot of positive talk around Jim. Those are interesting numbers.
Their next game notes should have that in it right at the top. Boeheim, 19-7 against the spread in March. They should, really work towards it.
No, he should be in a t-shirt on the sideline with that. That should be the number 1 talking point coming out of there. All right, let's take a look at some trends, ranked versus unranked, and then overs have been crushing it.
Yeah, so I tweeted this out the other day. It's gotten a lot of steam. It's honestly been the talk of the betting markets recently. Ranked teams versus unranked teams. It's been atrocious, Sean. 188, 253, and 4, 42.6% against the spread. You've lost $8,000 as a $100 better. That's 18.3% negative ROI. It's been really bad. It is the second worst season in Bet Labs, which goes back to 2005. So we really haven't seen this ranked versus unranked. And most of the damage, the Big Ten, 19 and 41 against the spread in this spot, 31.7%. So they've got $2,300 of the $8,100. The whole entire NCAA basketball is down. So a large percentage of the damage, Iowa, Indiana, things of that nature.
Yeah, I would love to see the home and road splits. It's been tough to get wins on the road in the Big Ten. Talk to me about the overs trend here.
This is absolutely nuts. So November and December, 40 games below 500. So unders were crushing at the beginning of the year. Basically, overs were down like 10K in total, 7.2% ROI. It was under city. January, we started to see more overs. It was like 53% to the over. In February, we went to 54% to the over. So basically, we've seen a complete shift in everything. I think the numbers are rising. And I actually looked this morning. In January and February combined, this is the most profitable stretch for overs we have seen since 2005 in our Bet Labs database. So unprecedented. The one thing I will say, and I don't think this is a shock, and this might be your follow-up, historically, we see unders in March. So we're heading into that season where it gets a little bit tighter. Over the last 5 years, Sean, 60 games under 500. So 60 games over for the unders. So we'll see where it goes.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. Do you think it's just been an overcorrection from the books in the market, or are guys just getting buckets at an unprecedented rate?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think the unders went so hot early. I think it impacted the totals, and now we're seeing a bit of a correction. But this has been talked about all over, and I know you've mentioned this as well. There's no great team. Like, we're about to walk into parity March, right? Like, this is exactly what's about to happen. And I think you're going to see more overs, because I think you're going to see more scoring. So I think that 60 games under 500 over the last 5 years in March, I think it's going to get leveled out a little bit. Now, do I expect 54%? I don't. But I do think more of a 50-50 stretch being probably more the case.
Evan, I love it. Speaking of parity, you got to give me your Cinderella pick here for the tournament in March.
Sure. So I use something I like from Haslametrics, which is another website that does a bunch of this efficiency stuff. They have something called a momentum metric. So I thought something fun would be, show me a top 100 team that's also top 100 in momentum. So the three teams that kind of fall at the top there are South Alabama, who's actually number 1 in momentum right now. Number 2 on that list would be Toledo. Number 3 is Gonzaga. So those are the three teams I think that could potentially make a run, are a little bit hot. Now, just for reference, the other 3 teams on the list, Hofstra, Santa Clara, and UAB. I think like 4 or 5 of those teams are actually really, Sweet 16, maybe round of 32, like could win a game or so in the tourney. The one team I'm going to pick is UAB. Ranked 56 in Hasla, 57th in KenPom. They're top 20 in momentum, and they're top 40 in their consistency metric. So not only are they getting hot, but they've been consistent throughout the season. So I think UAB could make a run here. Won 5 in a row, won 9 of 10. They've got D1 experience, good offensive rebounding. Let's show the Dragons. Let's go. Let's show some Blazers. Little UAB.
The momentum is a big factor in college hoops. You see it all the time, every year in the tournament, in conference tournaments. The team that gets rolling in certain games could upset anybody. Evan Abrams, thanks for always talking college hoops. I'm looking forward to March. I know you are too.
Let's roll.
All right, let's move over to the association. Here are the markets for NBA teams to make the playoffs. There's a lot of interesting potential value spots there. Matt Moore joins me live. Matt, LeBron James out several weeks. The Lakers haven't really given too many details on the injury. Currently plus 225 to make the playoff.
Yeah, obviously it's a huge blow for the Lakers, and the language being used in reports, as you noted, the Lakers have not actually specified what the injury is. That's concerning. Then you have some of the language being used. Shams Charania is saying that they're going to explore, quote, multiple options. Chris Haynes reporting that The Lakers are going to take a couple of weeks, multiple weeks to evaluate James. When he's reevaluated, then they'll make a determination. All of that language really concerning because it does indicate the possibility of a potential surgery and shutting him down for the season. That would obviously be devastating to the Lakers' hopes. Meanwhile, if we're kind of looking at the Lakers to make the playoffs, if you're still a believer in this squad, they do have a winnable stretch coming up. If James were to miss 3 weeks, let's say that his incredible healing factor, his Wolverine-like healing factor kicks in and he's able to come back in 3 weeks, that's 11 games from when he was out. That's doable. If they are able to go 5 and 6 in that stretch, they'll be within range of making it into the play-in and go from there. They've got games up, and there's a couple that I've actually identified as must-wins for them. It starts with OKC. They play OKC on Wednesday night. That's an obviously pivotal game. They've got to get that win, especially without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They need to beat the Wolves. They need to beat the Pelicans. They need to beat the Rockets. They beat the Magic. You win those games versus what are arguably inferior opponents. Go 5 and 6, and the Lakers have a shot at being able to make a run, get into the play-in, possibly have LeBron back, and then go from there. But that's what you're looking at. If you don't think that they're going to be able to pull off enough wins in the stretch without LeBron, the plus 225 is an absolute no bet as far as that goes.
Yeah, the language around LeBron's injury is concerning. I'm a Bulls fan. It sounds very eerily similar to the Lonzo Ball situation where no one really knows. No one's giving any answers. Next thing you know, he's out for the season. Hopefully, LeBron can make it back. Kevin Durant finally suiting up in the desert, debuting for Phoenix tonight. How do we feel about this? This is an interesting spot. We talked about it on the Buckets podcast.
Yeah, Suns minus 10 in this game, total 229.5. It's an interesting one from the perspective that we have not seen this Suns team. And the question here is not really like, are the Suns going to be good or will they win this game? It's more a matter of how good are they going to be? Should they be double-digit favorites on the road right off the jump, even versus a terrible Hornets team? Is that line correct? What's this game going to look like from the perspective of how it goes with the rotations? KD's going to be on a minutes restriction tonight. That's very notable. How do they fill in the rest of those minutes? Their depth has been compromised since the trade. They lost Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges in that trade. Lost a lot of depth. The other question I think here is the defense. The one thing that the Hornets can do a little bit is they can score. They get up and down the floor, and they do have some scorers on the team with Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier. So the question here is, are the Suns prepared to play elite level defense? What does the change from Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson to just Kevin Durant in limited minutes, what does that look like on the defensive end? That to me are the big question marks as we head into this first game of Kevin Durant with the Suns.
All right, let's put together a one-game parlay over at BetMGM. If you're doing something like that here for Durant's debut for the Suns, what does it look like?
All right, let's go ahead and start here. So I like the Hornets plus 9.5 here based off of the fact that, look, that's a lot of points to lay. Even if the Suns win this game handily, the Hornets could definitely backdoor cover this. KD's on a minutes restriction, which is why his points total is only 17.5. But if KD is able to get to his spots easily, which I think he's going to be able to versus this very terrible Hornets defense, I think there's a good chance that he goes over on the 17.5. If the game is close, right, if they're within that 9.5, more likely that KD does go ahead and play whatever his full allotment is before his minutes restriction is hit. And then you've got the final piece of this, I think is going to be a key prop to watch here with the Suns. It's Devin Booker assists. Booker's not thought of in the market as this incredible passer, but he is a phenomenal playmaker. And with Durant next to him, the efficiency of the shots that he'll generate for others, even if they're not just to Durant, it's to everyone, is going to be much better. So let's take the over on Booker assists at 5.5. We put those three together and we get a plus 375 one-game parlay at BetMGM. That to me looks very good in terms of value. Hornets plus 9.5, KD with the over at 17.5 points, and Booker over 5.5 assists. You could throw in the over on the total if you want to go over 229.5 as well, because this does kind of project as a high-scoring contest. Should be an interesting one, but that to me I think is the best opportunity for you to get in on a one-game parlay for KD's debut with the Suns.
You're also covering the game tonight.
I am covering the game tonight. So we're going to have it on NBA Bet Stream. That's over on the NBA League Pass and in the NBA app. If you go and you just click on the game and there's the streams option, go to NBA Bet Stream. I'll be on there talking all things, sides, futures, totals, in-game betting, all sorts of stuff during the game. If you want a betting perspective on KD's debut, make sure to check out the NBA Bet Stream tonight.
I love it. All right. Some may say the NBA is real hoops. Some think college basketball is the real hoops. I think I know where we fall, but it is March. The tournament's here. Talk to me about a potential Cinderella run for a squad you're looking at.
All right. We're going with the Furman Paladins. That's the Cinderella that we're going to take. They are 21st in overall points per possession mark over at Synergy for their overall offense. They are 97th percentile in all of NCAA teams in spot up percentage. This is always a number that I look for when I'm trying to handicap teams in the tournament. If you're able to shoot, that gets you a long way in the tournament, because this one game, that single game variance, you hit teams with a whole bunch of threes, and all of a sudden these better squads with bigger athletes are left helpless by your shooting. So I'm going to take the Furman Paladins as my Cinderella pick.
Let's talk some more shooting. I'm taking Florida Atlantic. I got to jump in on the college basketball action as well. I'm taking the Owls right now, 150-1 to win the title at BetMGM. You could get them in the market at 40-1 to reach the Final Four. This is another team that can shoot it, averaging 10 triples, shooting just under 40% on the year. And they also have a 7-footer in Vladislav Golden, who impacts the paint per 40 minutes. 21 points, 12 rebounds from him. They're deep. They play 9 guys that can play 15-plus minutes. The only thing they do struggle is they don't shoot it very well from the free throw line. That's a little concerning, but if you could fill it up from beyond the arc, just like Matt Moore said, I'll ride with those guys. Give me Florida Atlantic. 150-1, 40-1 to make the Final Four. I like it. Matt Moore, thanks for joining, man. Enjoy the NBA slate tonight.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, here are our March Madness Cinderella picks. Jim is going with Drake. Nick Giffin's going with Arkansas. Evan's going with UAB. And a couple of NBA guys. Matt's going Furman. I'm going the Florida Atlantic Owls. Now, we gave out a bunch of picks in this Green Dot Daily show. You can get them all. The picks from me, Jim, Nick, Evan, Matt, all of them on the award-winning Action Network app. They will be loaded on the app. Make sure you go follow those guys. They can do a little write-up. They break down tons of info in there. Follow those guys on the Action Network app. Green Dot Daily is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get $1,000 first bet insurance. Term and conditions apply. That's Green Dot Daily for this Wednesday. Make sure you come hang out with us every day of the week, Monday through Friday. Come kick it with us. We're on the YouTube Action Network YouTube page and the award-winning Action Network app live there. Come hang out daily. I am Sean Little. We'll see you next time.